It's a Tuesday. Your phone rings. It's a law office you've never heard of, and a calm voice tells you that a relative you barely knew has died, and after taxes and fees, you're inheriting $50 million. You sit down on your kitchen floor. You check the number twice. It's real. Congratulations, you're rich. And statistically, you've just started a countdown. Because here's the uncomfortable truth about sudden money. The research on people who receive it, lottery winners, athletes, heirs, says the same thing over and over. Most of them lose it. The Williams Group, a wealth consultancy, studied more than 3,000 families and found that roughly 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the second generation, and 90% by the third. Think you'd be different. Everyone thinks they'd be different. So let's run it. 5 years. You're 5 years. Watch closely for the exact moments where $50 million starts to die because they're quieter than you think. Year 1. The euphoria. The money lands in your account and the number doesn't look real on your banking app, which was designed for people checking if rent will bounce. First, the righteous spending. You pay off your debts, your parents' mortgage, your student loans, and honestly, this part is wonderful and correct. Total damage so far, maybe 1 million. You have 49 left. You haven't made a single mistake yet. The first mistake arrives wearing a suit, a financial advisor. A friend of a friend recommended him. He's charming, he has a nice office, and you don't know the difference between a fiduciary who is legally required to act in your interest and a salesman who is legally allowed to act in his. You don't know to ask. Why would you? Nothing in your life ever required you to know. He puts you in products with the fees you don't understand, and the fees sound tiny, 1 or 2%. On $50 million, that tiny number is up to $1 million a year, quietly siphoned forever. You just hired a leak and called it help. Then comes the spending that doesn't feel like spending. The house, $4 million. Beautiful. A second one near the beach, 2.5. Cars, $500,000, and you tell yourself cars hold value, which is adorable. By the end of year 1, you're down to about 40 million. And here's the trap. You spent 10 million and your lifestyle absorbed it instantly. It already feels normal. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. In 1978, researcher Philip Brickman ran one of the most famous studies in psychology, comparing lottery winners to people who had been paralyzed in accidents. Within a year or two, the lottery winners were barely happier than anyone else, and they'd lost something extra. Ordinary pleasures had gone flat. When you've had everything, a good meal stops registering. So if the money stops producing happiness, what do? You spend more, chasing the feeling. See the spiral forming? Year 2. The people. Word is out. It always gets out. Your phone has become a museum of resurrected relationships. Cousins you've met twice, high school friends with business opportunities, and here's what nobody warns you about. Saying no doesn't feel like protecting your money. It feels like betraying people with the receipts to prove you could have helped. Psychologist Stephen Goldbart, who co-founded an institute treating exactly people like you, named this whole cluster sudden wealth syndrome. Guilt, paranoia, isolation. You start asking the question that poisons everything, does this person like me or the money? And the worst part is, there's no way to ever know for sure. So you either trust everyone, which is expensive, or no one, which is lonely. You'll end up doing both, in that order. You lend your best friend $200,000 for his food truck idea. You both call it a loan. You both know it isn't. Multiply that by a dozen relationships, and year 2 quietly cost you $3 million in loans, gifts, and rescues, plus your lifestyle, which now burns $2 million a year just existing. The houses, the staff, the insurance, the travel. The travel. You've stopped looking at prices entirely, and that sentence right there is the sound of $50 million dying. You're at roughly 34 million. Still rich. Completely unsinkable. Obviously. Year 3. The investor is born. This is the year that kills you, and it begins with a thought so reasonable it should be illegal. I should put this money to work. Correct thought. But you don't put the money to work in boring index funds, because boring is for people who don't have $34 million. You're special now. The money came to you, didn't it? Somewhere deep down, a story has formed that you're the kind of person fortunes happen to. So you invest like a character in a movie. A restaurant with a celebrity chef, 1.5 million, because restaurants look like fun and you've eaten in lots of them. A friend startup, 1 million. Crypto, because your barber is up 300%, 2 million in near the top. You don't know it's the top? It's always near the top when the barber knows. A real estate development in another state you visited once, 3 million, with partners you met at a party. Here's the brutal math nobody does. The 8% that 50 million could earn sitting in a boring portfolio is $4 million a year, forever, more than you could reasonably spend, a permanent fountain. To lose, you have to actively outspend and outgamble a fountain. And you are pulling it off because the restaurant closes in 14 months. That's how restaurants work. The startup dies quietly, the crypto drops 80%, and the development gets stuck in litigation, which introduces you to the next predator. Lawyers. Yours, theirs, hourly, forever. End of year 3. Roughly 22 million. And here's the cruelest part. Your life still looks identical. Same houses, same cars, same vacations. The crash is happening, but the scenery hasn't changed, so your spending doesn't change either. Wealth doesn't collapse like a building. It collapses like a glacier, silently, from underneath, while the surface looks eternal. Year 4. The squeeze. The two houses cost $600,000 a year to simply exist. Taxes, staff, maintenance, insurance. The lifestyle runs $2 million. The advisor's leak is still leaking. The lawsuits are feeding, and your remaining money is badly invested, illiquid, stuck in things you can't sell quickly without losing more. So for the first time, you do the thing you swore you'd never do. You start selling principal to pay for life. The fountain is gone. You're drinking the lake. The beach house goes first in a hurry, which means below market. You let go of the staff awkwardly. These are people who know your kids' names. You finally fire the advisor, and a new, honest one walks you through the wreckage with the gentle voice of a doctor reading a scan. 11 million left, she says, and a burn rate that eats it in under 5 years. She uses the phrase, changes will be necessary. You hear it from very far away. Could you still save it here? Yes. Genuinely. 11 million, invested boringly with a normal lifestyle, is permanent security for the rest of your life. This is the last exit on the highway. But taking it means admitting to your family, your friends, the resurrected cousins, and the person in the mirror that the story is over, that you were never the kind of person fortunes happen to. You were just a person a fortune happened to, once. Almost nobody takes the exit. The identity is more expensive than the lifestyle. Year 5. The end. It goes faster now, the way the last sand in an hourglass seems to. A final desperate investment, bigger and riskier, because only a jackpot can restore the story. It fails. They always fail. Desperation is the worst investor on earth. The main house sells. The cars go back. There's a quiet bankruptcy filing to deal with the litigation, and a quieter move into a normal apartment in a normal building, where the elevator is slow and nobody knows what you used to be. Final accounting, $50 million, 5 years. Gone. And you never once felt rich while it was happening. That's the detail that will haunt you. It went too fast to feel. So go back to that Tuesday. The phone rings. The kitchen floor. $50 million. Knowing everything you know now, what was the actual moment it was lost? It wasn't the restaurant. It wasn't the crypto. It wasn't even the advisor. It was the first week before a single dollar moved when you decided what the money meant. You decided it meant you were finally allowed. Allowed to stop checking prices, stop saying no, stop being boring. But the people who keep fortunes, the quiet 70-year-old millionaires next door, all guard the same dull secret. The money was never permission. The money was a fountain, and the only job, the entire job, was to never touch the fountain, only drink what flows from it. Boring, almost insulting. $50 million, and the winning move was to change almost nothing. It's a Tuesday. Your phone rings. It's a law office you've never heard of, and a calm voice is about to tell you the number that ends your life as you know it. Now you know the truth about that phone call. It was never a question of what you would do with $50 million. It was a question of what $50 million would do with you.